All right, we've got a hell of a lot to cover in the first hour of the class, so we're just going to jump right into it. Actually, we've got a lot to cover in our entire 8 weeks because you guys are all going to write a screenplay, and we got 8 weeks to do it. So, first of all, I want to welcome all you guys here, those class members who are here physically at our little campus studio. So we've got, how many people do we have here? We've got about a dozen people. A few more are going to show up. And then we've got several more people watching online. And also welcome to all of you who are just checking in to see what this is all about. And let me tell you what it's all about. This is, I kind of call it the summer of screenwriting, because it sounds cool. Or also call it the screenwriting boot camp because it's pretty intense, because we work really hard and we cram a lot into the time that we've got. And it's always an absolutely fantastic experience. Most of you guys, I apologize because we're doing this live. I haven't gotten to meet you and properly introduce myself and get to know you, but we're gonna get to that. And you guys are gonna get to know each other very well, and the people online are gonna be able to get to know all of us very well. We won't get to know them very well because we won't be able to see them, but it's gonna be a great class. We're gonna answer all your questions. We're going to get you started today. You're going to walk out of here hopefully reeling a little bit and excited to get started. So I'm not very good at following my notes, so I'm just going to give you that right off the bat. So I might have to jump down. I'll jump around a little bit, but we're going to get all the material covered. However, I guess we have to say for the YouTube viewers that if you want to, after the hour after you have this experience, if you want to participate in the class in an auditing situation, you can go to the multiple links that I put on my Facebook page, or you could go to my website, richarddutcher.com. Just click on Visit Store. When you get to the store, go to the catalog, and then you can go and sign up for the class if you'd like to. Because as I said, the first hour is open to anybody who wants to watch it. After that, you got to sign up and be a part of the class. So we hope to have you join us. Okay, so there are no rules. First of all, 0 rules in screenwriting. There's guidelines. Actually, there is one rule. There's only one rule of screenwriting, and that is I call it this is the rule I made up. It's called the 95% rule. And Danny's taken the class before. I don't know if you remember what the 95% rule is, but the 95% rule is, you got to keep this in your mind all the time, that 95% of everything out there about screenwriting is absolute horseshit. Absolute. I went through learning how to write screenplays very much the way anybody else does. I bought all the books, and at the time there was this terrible book, the worst book, in fact, that has ever happened to the craft and the art of screenwriting, which was a book by Sid Field. And if you want to write a really bad screenplay, then follow the instructions in that book. I did that, and I wrote a really bad screenplay. I also made another mistake of going to university. And what I learned in the university is you're learning from teachers who learned how to write, or learned screenwriting from those very same books. And they weren't professional screenwriters. They weren't people who had ever gone out into the professional world. And so a couple of years into my university education, I realized I was learning from people that didn't really know what they were doing. And so my goal after that was to get out of college and start making films, which is what I did. And so what I'm going to share with you is the things that I've learned as a screenwriter, not only as a screenwriter but as a producer. I've approached filmmaking and screenwriting in a really interesting way, and I think it's in a unique way because most writers don't have the experience of being a director and having to translate those words onto the screen. And they also have never had the experience of being a producer and having to take a screenplay and realize that screenplay to make it alive, to make it real, and to get it out into the public. So, and also I've had the experience of being an actor and having to try to take screenplays, sometimes very bad screenplays, and let that awful dialogue spill out of my mouth and try to do it in a way that's entertaining and engaging and believable, and that can be a challenge too. So I've learned, and then as a screenwriter, I've not only written my own screenplays, I've written screenplays for other producers and directors, and what I do frequently now is I guess you'd call it a script doctor or gun for hire, where producers will send me terrible scripts and say, we've got the money to make this film, but we recognize that the script isn't very good, so will you please make it good? And so that's something I really enjoy doing, and so we'll talk about that as well as we get farther down in the class about adapting other people's work. So 95% rule, that's your only rule, to remember that. So don't go out and start reading a bunch of screenplay books. Don't do that. The best student, the ideal student that I could have right now would be someone who's never read any of those books, who loves movies, wants to write movies, but hasn't been polluted by any of that horse shit. So now the first thing I want to talk to you about is, I know we're going to run out of time, but in the first class, this is a rule that I hold to, something I believe in. This class isn't cheap, and you guys know that. You're making a sacrifice in your time and your money to be here. You're going to be putting in a lot of time and a lot of work. But in this very first hour, I want to make sure that you guys all walk out the door or turn off your computers or your televisions, and you walk out feeling like you got your money's worth. You people at home, you're definitely getting your money's worth because you're getting it free. But the rest of you, that's the approach I like to take. Every week, I want you guys to feel like you're getting the best deal in the world, and I really want each one of you to walk out of this class 8 weeks from now with a producible screenplay, with a good, solid screenplay that you could show to anybody, whether it's an actor, whether it's a professional actor, whether it's a professional producer, other screenwriters, to make them feel jealous, to be able to take that screenplay out and be able to raise money and actually get that film made. So that's the level that we're going to be working towards every week. And so I'm going to hold you to a very high standard. And as I said, there's no rules, because screenwriting is an art. It's a craft. But it's really an art. It's not like manufacturing. So, and that's referring back to what I was talking about, those people who write the books who have never actually written a produced screenplay, or the people who teach in college who have never been a professional writer. It's kind of crazy when you think about it that we learn from these people. We should all, I don't care if it's screenwriting or anything else. I mean, if you wanted to learn how to build kitchen chairs, you wouldn't go out and learn how to build kitchen chairs from somebody who had never built an actual chair that anyone had actually sat in before. You'd want to go to the guy who makes the best chairs in the village, right? So I like to think I make the best chairs in this particular village. So and then they're safe to sit in, and they're very attractive. So, but keep that in mind. It's like as you move beyond this class, I think it's great. Online now you can have these classes with these master classes with like Aaron Sorkin or David Mamet. Those things are fantastic, and they're a great way to get different points of view. So, and that brings up another thing that's important in this class is I'm going to teach you my way of writing, and while you're in the class, I'm going to require that you do it my way. So that you can learn it. And my way is very logical, and you'll see that there's reasons behind the guidelines that I'm going to share with you, and the things that you're going to see as we go along why these things are important to me, and why I think they're crucial elements in building a solid screenplay. Now, after that, of course, though, it's the old, in art, it's like you got to know the rules before you can break them. And so, and I hate to use the word rules, so I'll just say you got to know the guidelines before you can break them. But so when you walk out of this class, I want you to feel very solid in all the things that we're going to teach. And then I also want you to have the courage and the confidence to break those guidelines when it's going to serve you and serve your screenplay, serve the movie that you want to get made. All right, another guiding quote. This is from Stephen King. One of my favorite quotes. It's from his excellent book on writing, and he said, "If you want to be truthful in your writing, then your days as a member of polite society are numbered." I love that. And I want you to keep that in mind as we move forward. So there's a tendency for us to want to write for other people, especially in filmmaking. People think that they're writing for an audience, and that can lead to really bad writing. It's like, I call it the Burger King approach to screenwriting. It's like when you're trying to give them whatever they want, and instead of following your own inner compass and your own gut and your own heart. And so I want you guys to have confidence in following your own guts and your own hearts, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later today. But I want you to, there's no point in any of you writing a movie that anybody else could write. The best thing, the most important thing you could do is write the movie that nobody else wants to write, nobody else can write, because they haven't had your experiences, because they don't have your point of view. And that's the kind of work that I hope to inspire in you, so that you're not just writing another cop buddy movie. Cop buddy movies are great, but it should be a cop buddy movie that can only come from you. And so it's necessary. I think it's important that we imitate people as we begin to write, but imitation is the death of art. It really is. So be cautious about that and trust it. If it's quirky, if it's weird, if you feel like it's weird, if you think you're going to be embarrassed when people read it in class, probably means it's fantastic, and you should go with it. And what I found is people, the more they expose themselves, the more honest they can be in their writing, the more universal the writing is, because when we really open up and when we really share what's inside of us, the things that we think are peculiar only to us, the things that we think are only, the experiences that we think only we've had, the thoughts that we think only we've had, but then once we share those and put them out in the world, we find out that there are thousands, millions of other people who identify and have the same feelings. But if we just want to write about, robots that attack the world and kill everybody, you probably make a hell of a lot of money. But I really think, we're all put on this planet to do something a little more important, something real and something genuine. And as I said, something only you can produce. All right. The dual nature of a screenplay. This is a concept that's incredibly important for you to understand as you start off, as you embark on this journey. So, a screenplay has to serve, it has two natures, and you have to satisfy both those natures as you move forward. You have to keep them in mind. Some people get really, they really resist, they really hate some of the technical formatting that goes along, and some people really hate. It's kind of a left brain, right brain kind of thing. Some people are really great at telling a story, and the screenplays just kind of flow. They've got great dialogue, and the images are fantastic. But from the first nature of a screenplay is it's a blueprint. A screenplay is a blueprint for the production, just like a blueprint, an architectural blueprint is what guides everybody when they're building a skyscraper. Everyone from the contractors, the architects, everybody, they all refer to the blueprints so that they're all on the same page and they're all building the same building. And in much the same way, in a film production, everyone is referring to the screenplay as the blueprint. And they're referring to things, they're not looking to see, oh, this was a fantastic turn of phrase, here, or, oh my gosh, this bit of dialogue was beautiful and witty. They don't care about that. They're looking at it to know, what time of day are we going to shoot? How many scenes are we shooting today? How many pages? How many characters are in the screen? How many picture cars? How many people? How many extras? Those are the kind of things that you as a writer, if you're a good writer, will include in your screenplay in a very seamless way. We're going to talk about that in a way so that it doesn't interfere with the flow of the screenplay, with the storytelling of the screenplay, which is the second nature. I'm not finding the right word there, but the two parts of the nature of a screenplay. One part is the blueprint, and the other part is just simply storytelling. It has to be you have to be telling a hell of a story. You have to have people open up your screenplay and start reading it and not want to put it down. You want them to go all the way to the end without stopping, and that's a trick, because most screenplays that you'll read, most screenplays that I read, it's torture to get through them. It's absolute torture. It's, you're just like, oh my God, how many times do, it's like page 5. It's like, oh my, and you look to see how many pages are in the screenplay, and you realize that you've got to read this whole damn thing, and it's the most boring thing ever. And that's not what you want. You want to grab people. And it doesn't matter if it's an actor you're trying to hook to play a part, if it's a producer that you would like to produce your film, if it's a financier. See, you're talking to different audiences here. So you've got to keep that in mind so that you don't get so technical and you don't go so heavy on the blueprint side that you make it unreadable, and you want it to read just like a graphic novel to keep people involved the whole way through. So today we're going to jump into some of the things. I'm going to give you the tools that you're going to need formatting wise to satisfy the general guidelines of the blueprint part of the screenplay, and we're going to talk about how to make it readable, how to make it a fun read, and how to blend those two things and that's a perfect screenplay, by the way. If you've got a screenplay that reads great and is ready to go into production tomorrow, and by that I mean, if a producer, and it means a lot to a producer, if you receive a screenplay and you realize that you don't have to spend 3 weeks rewriting the thing to put it into the shape that the production manager and the line producer are going to need and the first AD are going to need in order to actually start making the film, right there you're saving money. So let's just say this is why a good screenwriter can command a great salary, a great fee on a script, because if you deliver a script that is production ready, you're saving the production hundreds of thousands of dollars in time and labor. And if you're conscious of this as you're writing it, so that you're not creating extra characters that don't need to be there, so that you're not putting in extra locations that don't need to be there, if you're conscious of those kind of things, whatever your fee is, even if you're getting paid $200,000, $250,000 for the script, if you're doing it right, you're actually saving them money by hiring you. So I want to teach you how to do that, because I think that's something that, because I have produced enough independent films from my own scripts that I've learned how to do this, and I know that it makes a huge, huge difference. All right, and then I've got another guideline to throw out before we get started heavily, and I call it the 3 C's. It's one of those things, easy to remember. The perfect screenplay is going to be clear, it's going to be clean, and it's going to be concise. So, and by clean, I mean that it's going to be a beautiful screenplay, just to look at. It's going to be properly formatted. It's going to be neatly done. It's going to be there won't be typos. There won't be bad mistakes. It'll just be something that looks like a professional wrote it. And then it's going to be clear, so that of course the images that you're putting across are just going to jump out from the page into your reader's mind. That's what you want to do. It's so many screenplays you're reading it and you're trying to understand what the images are that you're supposed to be seeing. Now, a great screenplay, you don't do that. A great screenplay, those images just jump off the page and into your mind, and it just moves along at a rapid pace. So it needs to be clean, it needs to be clear, and it needs to be concise. And by concise, I mean suspense. I mean that the perfect screenplay is so tight, it's so lean. There's not a scene that doesn't need to be there. There's not a bit of dialogue that shouldn't be there. There's not characters who aren't necessary. In fact, the perfect screenplay, there's not a single word, there's not a single extra word. And these are standards that I try to hold myself to as I write. Now, till later today, in the second part of our class, we're going to read one of my screenplays, and the one that hasn't yet been produced. It's one of my favorite screenplays, but there's a few reasons that we're going to read this. It's let me hold off on one of those stories yet, but one of the reasons that I want to do this is, we talked about learning from teachers who don't know what the hell they're doing. So one of the reasons we're reading one of my scripts today is so that you guys can see that I know what the hell I'm doing, and have the confidence to move forward with me and to take my advice and my counsel as we move forward. One of the other reasons that we're doing it is because it's a rowdy script. I love it, but it's got bad language, really bad language. It's got sex. It's got graphic violence. All the things I love in a movie. And I want to do that because I want you to feel confident that you can write anything in this class. And you don't have to hold back. And especially in your first drafts, don't censor yourself. You can always take the dirty words out later. Just like the bad, you're going to write bad scenes. You're going to have to write 4 bad pages to get a page and a half of good stuff. And the thing where a lot of writers go wrong is they censor themselves. They're judging themselves as they're writing. And I want to just, I want to help you let that go, so that first draft, that's where you really find the gold, when you're just writing and you just, if you feel it, you write from your gut, you write from your heart. And later, later you can go back, and you can always go back, even after you shoot a film, you can go back and take things out that you don't like. So nothing is ever permanent until your final cut. So let yourself have that freedom to just write without censoring yourself. And you'll get a good example of that tonight. And okay, and the other reason that we're going to read this script is because, now I'm asking you to write a screenplay in 8 weeks. And you may think that that's too fast. You can't do it. But the reason we're reading, this is my film Scorpion 69. The reason we're reading Scorpion 69 is because, let me tell you the story behind it. I was in Los Angeles and I was premiering my film Falling. I wasn't premiering it. It was opening in a theater in Westwood, Beverly Hills, Westwood area. And so it was playing for a couple weeks. And I was there, and then one day I get this call out of the blue from a producer who he had a company that it was called Go Films. I believe it was called Go Film, not Go Films, something like that. But it was a gay media company. He was like they called him the William Randolph Hearst of the gay community, because he had magazines, he had these, he made movies, he just did everything, and usually some really classy stuff. Anyway, he called me into his office, so I go into his office, I sit down. And he had read the review for my film in the LA Times, and he thought, hey, this sounds interesting. So during the day, he went and watched my movie, and then he liked it so much that he tracked me down, called me in for a meeting, and he said, we're doing some films, and it looks like you could do, we don't have huge budgets, but I could see that you didn't have a huge budget on yours, but you did a fantastic job. So I want to talk to you about maybe making a movie for us. And being the smart filmmaker that I like to think I am, I said, absolutely, yeah, I'd love to. That would be fantastic. And he goes, so do you have anything? Do you have any scripts that you think would be, something that we might be interested in? And again, being overly confident or cocky or whatever, I just said, yeah, I do. I have one that I think you guys would just love. I think you'd jump at it. And I said, I gotta, I'd like to just clean it up a little bit, dust it off before I send it in. And he goes, great, could you have it to me in like maybe a week, 10 days? And I said, absolutely. Yeah, I could absolutely have it to you in a week or 10 days. And so he's excited, I'm excited, I shake his hand, I walk out just going, what the hell am I gonna do? Because I don't have I've never written a gay theme script in my life. I'm not gay. So this is going to be interesting. But what I did, I walked out, I was in the elevator, and I immediately pulled out, I have this thing I carry along with me all the time, and I recommend that you guys do this too. It's called, well, kind of corny maybe, but I just say on my writing desk. This is a page that says on my writing desk. And I can't show you because it's got too many good ideas, so Seth, don't show them this. But quickly, it's a list of ideas. It's a list of, sometimes they're concepts that are somewhat fleshed out but that I haven't written yet, or that I've written a few scenes on, or some of them are just titles that I thought, this is a great movie title, I just don't have anything for it yet. But as you see, I've got like 60 different things on here that are just beginnings of ideas. And so I went out and I went out walking along in Beverly Hills there, and I started just going down this list, and I got to this one script. It was just an idea, it was just a concept that was it's kind of a film noir kind of piece, kind of a Postman Always Rings Twice piece, but I wanted to do it in southern Utah, like in the Four Corners area, down by Blanding, and I wanted to do this. I just had the tone. It was a tone and it was a title. It wasn't even a title. It was just that film. And I thought, wait a minute. So what if I, instead of making it this like the usual thing that you'd expect, which is a drifter, a male drifter who finds a beautiful woman and then they get into some murderous thing. And I thought, wait a minute. What if it's two women? What if it's a female drifter who comes into a town, falls in love with a woman? And that would be an interesting twist on it. And then shoot it in the Red Rock, southern Utah desert. Suddenly I went, that's it. That's fantastic. That's what I'm going to go with. So I immediately I was in LA and I just got in my car and I zipped off to, and I did two things. I went to southern Utah. My brother, one of my stepbrothers has a hotel in Monticello, a motel. There are no hotels in Monticello. It's a motel in Monticello. And so I said, hey, can I just stay for like a week and write? Because I've got something I want to write, but I need to write it down there because that's where it's going to take place. It's like, sure. So he gave me a motel room. And then I called my friends and I set up a reading. And this is something that it's going to be very similar to what we're going to do in the second segment tonight. But, and it's something I recommend. I always do this, always do this with my scripts. Unless there's a deadline that I've got to get it to a producer right away. But I always, when I have the draft that I think is good and solid, I call in 6, 8, 10 of my writer friends, people whose opinion that I really respect, not people who are just going to kiss my ass and say, oh, it's wonderful, it's fantastic, can I have a part? Nothing like that. These are people who are going to actually look at it and tell me, the things that they see that are right about it and things that they see are wrong about it. And they're going to help me see things in the screenplay that I couldn't see, things that I thought were coming through, and I will realize through the reading that they're not, and things that I didn't understand or that I didn't see were coming through, they'll alert me to those things. So I called these guys and I said, hey, we're going to have a reading in 7 days. And so I set it all up. All these guys were like, sure, we're going to come. And then I get to this motel in Monticello, and I have to write a screenplay in 7 days because I've got all these people coming. I've got a guy in LA who's waiting for it. And so that's what I did. I wrote this film in 7 days. And it turned out to be one of the scripts that I'm happiest with. And I've done this a few times now. I've done 3 screenplays now that I've written in about 7 days. And so so I don't feel at all bad about asking you to write a screenplay in 8 weeks. That's going to be easy. In fact, next week when we come, I'll be really impressed if you guys can bring me an entire screenplay. But if you've already written it and you're trying to pass it off as new, I'll know. But anyway, that's another reason we're gonna read it. We're gonna read this one because you're gonna see that it can be done. That a good piece can be written very quickly. And in fact, there's something that comes out when you're writing that quickly. You don't have time to censor yourself. You don't have time to overthink it. It's all coming from your gut. And I think this screenplay, as we read it tonight, you'll see that it's definitely coming from somebody's gut. So that's what we're going to do. So how are you going to do it? How are you going to do your screenplays? Well, this is what you're going to do. You're going to give yourself a goal every day. Every single day, you're going to write 4 pages in screenplay format, which we're going to go over, and I'm going to teach you. So 4 pages a day. And if you do the math on that, after 6 weeks, if you do only 4 pages a day, and it's not going to be too hard to write 4 pages a day, even, like I say, 3 pages of those might be absolute garbage, and that's okay. The next one, the next page will be, you'll discover something in there that's usable and that will inspire you and give you ideas for what's coming ahead. But 4 pages a day, so let's say 6 weeks at 7, that's 42 days. 4 times 42 is 168. So at the end of 6 weeks, you'll have 168 pages of a screenplay. That's plenty. Most screenplays you're going to want them to come in somewhere between 90 and 109 pages. That's what. Now, obviously, if you're writing an epic about the Scottish wars of the 1200s, and and you know what you're doing. If you want to write a 300-page screenplay, do it. Just realize the pushback you're going to get from everybody reading it. But so ideally, you're going to want to hit between 90 and 105 pages. And the reason you're going to want to do that is because there's a lot of Hollywood idiots who, and these guys, the Hollywood guys, they think they know about screenwriting because they've read those same crappy books that the college professors have read, and so they think there's a couple things that just drive me nuts about Hollywood people, and you pick it up, and even here in Salt Lake City with the people that are the wannabe Hollywood people, they do the same things. It's like you'll hand somebody a script, and the first thing, this happens so often when I was in LA. I just roll my eyes. You hand them a script. The first thing they do is go to the very back page and see how many pages there are. And then immediately, if there's more than like 110 pages, they're going to say, "Oh, well, it looks a little long. It's a little long for a movie, don't you think?" And or if it's shorter than 90, they're going to be like, "Oh, it's kind of short for a movie." It's like they don't know anything, but the things they think they know is how many pages a screenplay should be. And then they also think, here's my favorite, you got to write this down, so when you're sending your script out, you got to write back to me as well when this happens to you, because it's going to happen inevitably. The note you're always going to get back, and this is a clue that they don't know anything, that they really have no idea what they're talking about. They'll read the script and you'll say, "So what did you think?" And they'll say, "Well, I think it has problems in the second act." And for some reason, it's never the first act, and it's never the third act, but it's always, "I think it has problems in the second act." Because again, they've read Sid Field, and so they think that, they think it makes them sound like they know what they're talking about. So just basically ignore those, keep them in your mind. Just recognize if you put out a screenplay, if you're trying to sell it, it might be a good idea it's a good guideline to keep it between 90 and 109 pages. And don't worry about your second act. We're going to talk about that. You're not going to have problems with your second act. Okay, so if you do that in 6 weeks, you can have plenty of, and then the last 2 weeks of class you can spend, I can help you just, tighten those things, polish those things, get rid of the stuff you don't need. And you'll find, the rewriting process is, some people love the rough draft phase. I do. I love just getting it all out there, sometimes the inspiration, the ideas, and just doing it. But I also really enjoy the rewriting process where you're sharpening and you're just honing things, and it becomes more enjoyable to you as you go along. So I have more fun writing a script now, far more fun than I did when I started. Maybe that's because I'm confident and I'm not second guessing myself. I'm just examining it with a little bit of objectivity and experience. Let me tell you something else there's a temptation for us to hold on to our best ideas, or what we think are our best ideas, and I don't want you to do that. I want you to write. If you've got an idea that you've been waiting for years to write it, get it there. And I hate to tell you this, but it's probably not going to be any good. And I'll tell you let me tell you why. I had the best movie. It was the best screenplay that anybody had ever written when I was in college. I was so busy with work. I was working graveyards, and I was in college, and I didn't have time to write it. But I knew that as soon as I graduated, I was going to write this screenplay, and it was going to make $100 million, and I'd be off to the races. And so as soon as I graduated, told my wife what I was up to, and I was going to write the screenplay. And so I every day I just kind of holed up in our little apartment in Provo, Utah. And I wrote it. I finally wrote it. All these scenes that had been in my, that had been playing it, that I just knew were going to be brilliant. I wrote this thing out. Spent probably 3 weeks to a month till I had a draft. And then I read it and I realized that it was absolute garbage. I mean, it was just bad. It was just, I didn't even want anybody to read it, because it was like, I knew that it didn't work. There were these moments that were really good, but this prize story that I'd been carrying around with me for so long wasn't any good, and it was discouraging. But I thought, okay, but I just realized it's like, okay, and I didn't really know how to fix it, and I didn't think it was worth fixing, so I put it away. It was called The Killers, by the way. Who cares? It was called The Killers. Stupid ass movie. Okay, After that, then I thought, okay, all right, I've written a screenplay, now I'm going to write it. Now I'm going to write another screenplay, and this one's going to be good. So I wrote another screenplay. It was called The Great Anonymous. It also sucked. It was bad. It was just bad. I've got it. I've still got it, and I don't even want to read it now because it's going to be embarrassing. It'll be like looking at elementary school photos of myself when I was big ears and had no teeth, and my mom used to shave my head. It was terrible. But that's how I feel about it. And so, again, it was like I recognized this is no good. It's not any good. And I was starting to think, maybe I'm not a writer. I always thought I was a writer. Maybe I'm not a writer. But I did it again. And I wrote a third screenplay, and that one finally clicked. That one, it was like, I don't know what it was, but when I finally put away the shit, when I finally put away the Sid Field, and I stopped listening to all the other voices, and I just decided to write something that I wanted to see in a way that I wanted to write it. And it turned out, I thought it was really good. And so I submitted it. There was a competition called the Nickel Fellowship. And I placed really high in that. I didn't win it, but I placed really high, and that was a boost to my confidence. And then I wrote another script, and that was even better. And some people will probably read that in a few weeks before we start to get some of your scripts, that are in substantial, enough pages that we can read some of your stuff. But we'll probably read that one, and some people still say that's my favorite script. So that was my fourth script. And then after that, I wrote the first one that I actually produced and made, which was called Girl Crazy, which actually wasn't as good as the two previous ones that I had written. But it was something affordable, so I could make it. But for that reason, I'm just saying, get it out there. Don't hold on to your stories. You're going to have more ideas. You don't have just one idea. In fact, you need to get that one idea. If you've got that one idea, you've got to get it out of your head. You've got to get it on the page and out there. If it turns out fantastic, that's great. But if it doesn't, then it's out of your head, and now there's space for a fresh idea that's going to come to you now that you're a little more experienced, now that you have a different perspective, now that you know a little bit more of what you're doing. And those new ideas, those fresh ideas, they're going to come to you. A lot of people carry around these ideas that they had 12 years ago, 15 years ago. And let me tell you, you as a person, as a human being, you've experienced so many things in those 12 to 15 years. And so the things that are in you now that you haven't even let out, I like to say, people say, what do you think about something? It's like, I don't know, I haven't written about it yet. And that's true, because I can talk, but it's not until I really sit down and write and try to organize my thoughts and express them in a clear, concise, clean way. That's when I realize this is how I think about something. This is how I see the world. This is what I see in the world. And so we got to get your minds clear and have new and have fresh ideas. Do you know what scripts you're going to want to be writing? Do you know that yet? A little bit? You do? Okay. Danny does? A little bit? Okay, half and half. All right, I'm going to help you too. If you don't quite know what you want to write about, we're going to get you a great story. It'll be exciting. And isn't that great? 8 weeks from now, you guys are going to have a finished screenplay. Not only a finished screenplay, but it's going to be good, because I'm going to make sure you don't make any terrible mistakes, or I'm going to let you know if you're making some terrible mistakes. You can go ahead and make them if you want to, but I'm going to let you know beforehand. So that's really exciting. Damn, we're running out of time. I knew we would be. That was a good joke. I missed that one. I was going to make a joke about the Hollywood, the Hollywood people talking about how your script's too short. I was going to say, talking to Hollywood's people is like being in the men's locker room, instant judgment on length. Okay. I thought it amused me. Okay. So for your first assignment. Now, yes, you're going to write your 4 pages a day. That's your main assignment. But the first thing you're going to do before you get started on your magnum opus, on the script, you're going to write a short. You're going to write a short film, and it could be a short film. I'm going to give you some examples after we break. I'll give you 2 examples of, I think, brilliant short films that might help inspire you. But another thing, most of you probably haven't thought much about short films, and so this will be, you got to think of something fast, because next week you got to come with a, and it needs to be, it could be anywhere between 4. We'll try to keep it to 10 pages or less. Again, no rules, just guidelines. If it's 12 pages, whatever. But try to keep it in there. So it's a story that you're going to want to try to tell, a complete story that you're going to want to tell, and don't try to cheat and just take 10 pages out of whatever screenplay your writing. But write something new, write something fresh, and so the first writing you're going to do is to get that short screenplay done. Then you're going to jump into your feature. Next week we're going to read some of the shorts. So, and then what I want you to do is every week now we meet on Wednesday. So every Tuesday I want you to email me the writing that you've done for the week. That goes for the online students as well. Email me the pages that you've written that week, and it should be somewhere around 28 pages if you're keeping up with your goal. And so this first week you're going to send me a short, and then the first pages of whatever feature you're going to work on. Now, when you're writing your feature, you don't have to start at the beginning. Start anywhere you want to. If there's one scene that you feel pretty confident about, jump into that scene. If you want to write the ending first. If you want to write the beginning, if you just want to, explore and just write a scene, any scene, do it. You don't have to start at the beginning. But what I do want you to do is to write. This is another slogan of the class: writers write. So many people who call themselves writers, they don't write. They're not really writers. They're thinkers, they're dreamers, but they're not writers. Writers write. And I'm going to add "God damn it" after that. Writers write, God damn it. You got to write, and you got to recognize, you got to plow through the bad stuff, because everybody writes bad stuff. Even Hemingway, he'd talk about, you got to write the bad stuff to get to the good stuff. And the bad stuff is easy to throw away, but you're never going to get to the good stuff, to the real diamonds of the writing, unless you're willing to wade through it. And sometimes you'll spend an entire day, and you'll feel like you're not getting anywhere. But after 3 hours of writing, after just slogging through, suddenly there'll be something there. Maybe it's just a paragraph. Maybe it's a new character. Maybe it's a new idea of where the story needs to go. And it's going to all be worth it. It's going to all be worth it. As writers, we're too hard on ourselves, and we expect it to come too easily. We really do. We think you should just be able to sit down and write it, and it's like, no. Why should you be able to do that? If you're building a house, do you really think you'll just be able to go and kind of do it and it'll be great? No. People have to put in a lot of work, a lot of sweat. And it's the same thing with writing a good screenplay. You've got to put in the work. You just got to do it. There was something I was going to say there, and then I forgot it. But now I'm going to jump into, okay, let's give you really quickly what you're going to need to, some formatting things. We're going to have to cut it exactly at 8, so I'm going to get through as much of this as I can, and then what I don't get through, we'll just pick up later. But I want to get as much as I can for the people that are watching just the first episode. Okay, so Seth, you can show the page here. So this is a great, well, it's my script. It's a great title page, and let me just tell you exactly. And this is you got to. There's things here, just a title, the way this is written, the way it's positioned, the information that's here, the information that's over here. All of this is important, and all of it. This is the first thing that a person sees, and it doesn't matter if it's a hard copy like this or if it's a PDF that somebody's getting in the mail. This is the first thing that they see, and so many people just screw it up on the very first page. And so what I want to help you understand is everyone's looking for a reason to say no. When you want somebody to produce your film, when you want someone to act in it, when you want someone to give you money to help you make it, you're asking all of these people to take a risk. You're asking all of these people to trust you. Most of them have never met you before. They don't know you. You're asking a lot of these people, they're putting their careers or their money, especially if they're a Hollywood executive. These are people who, if they make a bad call, if they choose to produce a movie that tanks, they're out and they're not getting back in. And so they're very cautious about what they say yes to. Same thing with an actor who's hot. If there's an actor that you want to be in your film badly, usually it's because that's an actor who's going to bring an audience to the film. But the actor knows that, and the actor's agent knows that, and so they're very careful about which projects they're going to choose, because they don't want to associate themselves with anything but the best and projects that are going to be the most successful. But somehow, again, it's the lazy writer syndrome, we think sometimes that we should just, we're brilliant. People should just recognize it. So, we'll just put it out there. And I've got a friend who does this. He's just drives me nuts because he's got great stories, but he refuses to deliver anything that even resembles a proper screenplay format. And so he gets rejected constantly because you look at it and you think this is something an 8th grader did. So you got to recognize that everyone's looking for a reason to say no, and you've got to seduce them into saying yes. You absolutely have to do that. And one of the easiest things for them, if I get a script and it's poorly formatted and there's type, and I go to the first page and there's there's a typo. I mean, there's like 3 typos, and I see by the way that they're doing it that they've never written a produced screenplay. Then instantly I'm biased against it. I think, why do I want to invest my time and energy into doing anything with this? Because obviously this person doesn't know screenwriting well enough or the business well enough. It doesn't understand the blueprint nature of a screenplay. It doesn't understand the storytelling nature of a screenplay enough to give me something that I'll get excited about. So I want to help you so that when you deliver a script to somebody, they have no reason to say no. I mean, I'm going to show you how to do it and teach you how to do it. So when they look at your screenplay, they say, at the very least, they say, this is a person who knows screenwriting. This is a professional screenwriter, because only professional screenwriters can deliver a screenplay in an impeccable format and in a way that a producer can recognize, wow, this guy knows, or this lady knows what it is to produce a film, and I can tell by reading it. That's gonna mean a lot. So all right. So first of all, let's go back to the. I'm just going to burn through this stuff. Take notes fast. We've only got like 13 minutes before we had to quit this first segment. So, title page. Your title right here. Don't go crazy with fonts. Just do a simple font. Oh, and by the way, let's talk about Screenplay software really quickly. I highly, highly, highly recommend that you get either Movie Magic Screenwriter, which is my preference, or Final Draft. Either one of those are fantastic. They save you so much time. I know they're kind of pricey, but they save you so much time. They've got their flaws, which we'll also talk about. Yes? I hate that one. Celtics or Celtics. I know it's free, but it's such a pain in the ass to get it to. As we talk about formatting today, to get it to the format the way that I'm going to teach you. It's a real pain in the ass. And it's a pain in the ass for me as a teacher to have to go through and continually keep saying, all right, we've talked about this 15 times, this is not where this goes and this isn't where this goes. So I did have one student who used it, and I told him I'd rather you didn't, but he didn't have any money, so he just went ahead and did it. But he took the time to format it so that it was indistinguishable from what I'm going to teach you. So if you take the time to do it, absolutely. But if you don't have that kind of time, just buy Movie Magic Screenwriter, use the Warner Brothers template, and go for it. That's what I would recommend. I use both. I prefer Movie Magic Screenwriter, but some of the clients that I work for want me to use Final Draft, so I do that too. They're pretty much the same nowadays. But what you're going to find in the software, there's really, we should in class, we could make a bunch of money if we just created our own software, because all you really need for proper screenwriting is maybe 6 or 8 tabs and 6 or 8 keyed shortcuts, and there you go. But these guys, they can't justify charging you $200 for that, so they've got to put in all this other bullshit, which is some of the bullshit that I'm going to teach you about that can't go. And that's one of the reasons that the two worst things that have happened in the craft of screenwriting is Sid Field and people like him, and the software companies who have cluttered up screenplays and just filled them full of so much bullshit that it just complicates it way beyond what needs to be complicated. So title page. And by the way, this is the way that most of the time, nowadays we just deliver PDFs to people. But I also I always keep printed copies of my scripts around, because if you run into somebody, putting it in their hands is fantastic. And then they've got something they have to carry around, and it's like, well, they're on a plane or something, and it's like, all right, well, read this damn screenplay. Whereas if they're on their laptop, they'll just be playing around on Facebook or whatever. So anyway, so it's a good idea to always have these around and to deliver them. Even sometimes if people ask for a PDF, I'll send them a PDF, but then I'll also send them a hard copy just so that they have it If they use it, fine. If they don't, but at least it's something that's physically on the desk and it's floating around somewhere in the world, and it might land in the right hands. But anyway, this is how I do mine. I have it's very nicely, I have a clear cover so that you can tell what it is from the top. I write on the side what script it is so that if it's on a shelf, you can see, they can see the title. And then I have a nice black cardstock thing with some really high quality washers. Everything you do, try to make it classy, try to make it look better than any other script that's going to be sitting on somebody else's desk. Can't lose by doing that. All right, once again, let's go back to the title page. So you have your title. Don't use fancy fonts. That'll just show everybody that you're an amateur. So just use the basic fonts. Don't go too crazy. A little bit of fun's okay, but don't go too crazy. Right under that, it says, like here, it says an original screenplay by Richard Dutcher. Now that may seem simple, but it actually communicates something. By saying an original screenplay, it means it communicates to a producer or to anybody who knows what they're doing. It communicates that this is not based on a book, somebody else's book. This isn't something that was written by more than one person. This isn't based on a book that the writer himself wrote. So as a producer, I'd read that and just say, oh, great, so now I know I'm not going to have to go chasing down rights from a bunch of different people. So right there, so it's a great title. I like the title. Original screenplay by Richard Dutcher shows that I wrote it. No more rights need to go to anybody else. Down here on the lower left, justified to the left, it's the copyright, and I always put that. Never distribute your script, never even at a reading where you have your friends come in. Just always get in the habit of doing those two things. Put copyright on it. You don't have to do anything special to copyright it. You don't have to send it into the Copyright and Trademark Office. You can do that later. That's something that happens just in the matter of as you start to make your film. So don't stress about that. Just write it down there. In fact, a really easy way to copyright something and protect it for yourself is just print out a copy of your first draft of your script, put it in an envelope, and then like a manila envelope, send it to yourself in the mail, and then never open it. But keep it sealed so it's got the postmark on it, and if it ever comes up, if you're ever in a legal situation where you need to prove that you wrote this script in 2017, the actual envelope can be opened in court and you've got your evidence right there. So, but then when you go into production, you'll do the proper copyright and trademark. Below that, it's WGA registration number. And this is easy to get. All you got to do is you go to WGA West website, WGA West. Anybody, you don't have to be a member of the Writers Guild. You can just register your screenplay. You just send them the PDF and send them, I can't remember what it is, $15, something like that. And it's instantly registered, and they give you a number, and then they keep it on file for 10 years or something so that you can always prove also through them that you submitted the script through Writers Guild way back then. So, and I always do that, even if I'm racing, like when I did Scorpion 69 and I had a 7-day, I had to get the script done in 7 days, and I had a reading, and I just ran into the room in time to distribute the scripts and start the reading. I still put that down, even though I just made up a number because I could always go back and change it later, but at least it communicates to people, oh, this is a writer who at least knows how to protect his own work. So do that, always do that. And then on the other side, property of the author, and put your information down there. Put your email address, put your phone number. If you have your own website, put it down. If you have a physical address, put that down. Put your phone number down. Any way possible that people can contact you, put it there. Because, I don't know, it's happened so many times that I've seen screenplays floating around. It'll say who wrote it, it'll give the title, but you have no idea how to contact the writer, so it doesn't do you any good. And that, if you look at the way it's arranged, it's the way that it's spaced, it looks nice, it looks very professional, it's not, it's just simple, and it's got all the information there. Okay, now let's jump ahead to the next page. 6 minutes. Okay, at the beginning of a scene heading, and these are things that we're talking about the blueprint nature of a screenplay. So it's going to be interior or it's going to be exterior. Those are your only two choices. And that's pretty easy to distinguish. So if it's obviously if it's inside a house and it's an interior, if it's outside it's an exterior. And this is for the production crew because generally you shoot all your interiors together, you shoot all your exteriors together. So easy as sin. Now here's the only little twist that you're going to get to that. Like let's say you're in a car, and you're pulling into the 7-Eleven. The scene is in a car as you're pulling into the 7-Eleven. it's not going to be, it's going to be interior car, because that's where the dialogue is happening, that's where the exchange is happening, so it's going to be inside the car. And once they stop and then they get out, then it's exterior 7-Eleven. Okay? There's some little peculiarities there that we'll get into later, but generally speaking, interior, exterior, easy to do. After that, your scene heading. As you see here, it's highway. Now I want to show you, next one, truck stop, Bert's truck. Okay, now the reason, when you do a scene heading, you want to make it as simple as possible. I've seen scene headings that go entirely across the page, just crazy, the McDonald family home / dining room, bullshit like that. Don't do it. So it's highway, simple, truck stop, simple. And now if there was more than one truck stop, then I'd need to be a little more specific. But in this film, there's only one truck stop, so I only have to say truck stop. Here we say Bert's truck. Now the reason it says Bert's truck instead of just interior truck is because later we have Rick's truck. And so there's distinguish between Bert's and Rick's truck. But you always want to simplify it down to it's going to help production so much if it's just simple and clean. Let's keep going. So we got Bert's truck, we've got truck stop, rest stop. Okay, we've got a rest stop. As you see, these are all just really, Jimmy's truck, not Ricky's truck, Jimmy's truck. As you see, these are all just gas station. So all of these things are just very simple. Just keep your scene heading simple. We're into diner, and then et cetera, et cetera, and et cetera. So do that. After that, we're going to go to it goes to day or night. Now this is I used to call this my cigar rule, because if anybody screwed this up, they owed me a cigar in class. I don't smoke as many cigars as I used to, but what the hell, let's have a cigar rule, because this is important. And it took me several scripts to learn this, and I was taught it by Bill Butler, who's my cinematographer in my past couple of films, and we were shooting my film Evil Angel, and I'd written the script, and I was using the movie magic thing, so I would write, exterior barn, or not barn, Evil Angel, there wasn't any barns in Evil Angel, exterior city, street, sunset, or whatever. And Bill looked at me and he's like, what is this bullshit? And I was like, what? And he goes, well, you got sunset, you got morning, you got afternoon. He goes, it's all horseshit. He said, all you got to do is, he goes, look, it's just day or it's just night. It's just the way, when we produce films, even if it's something that's supposed to happen at around sunset, then you're still going to shoot it in the daytime because you still need light. So just what that's there for, it's not to tell the story, it's to tell the production crew whether they're going to be shooting during the day or during the night. So even if you have a scene that's a sunset scene that's important for some reason to be sunset for the story, and that does happen, then you still put day. Here's a good rule. If there's any light in the sky whatsoever, call it day. And the reason is, if you're shooting that scene, you're not going to be able to, you're going to have 5-6 different shots. It's going to take you 4 hours, 5 hours, maybe all day to shoot that one scene that happens at sunset. So you're not going to be able to make the sun, even Mormons can't make the sun stop in the sky, no matter what the book says. And so you've got to, sorry, getting distracted, getting a little punch drunk here. So you've got to, you're going to have to, when you're shooting the film, you're going to have to use, photographic effects, After Effects, computer effects, to make everything consistent and to make it all look like sunset. But there's no way in hell, unless you're Terrence Malick and you got tons of budget and you can only shoot, you can shoot for 15 minutes at the end of the day and that's it. But that's not practical. So as a guideline, in our class, it's only day or it's only night. Just stick to that. And if it's important for some reason that it's sunset, then in the scene description right underneath, you can say, Jane and Mary walk as the sun sets, a beautiful warm glow, whatever, blah, 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 what you want to do. And it'll come across, that way it's actually more powerful because it'll come across in the storytelling. All right, well, we've got to wrap it up. We're going to continue on with this. I guess for those of you who are watching online, if you want more, then go to richarddutcher.com, go to the website, go to the catalog, find the class, and sign up. And I hope you do. We're going to have fun. Every class is kind of like this. I got so much to pack in. But it would be fun to have you writing your screenplays. Even if I can't personally read them and respond to them, you'll be able to learn from what the rest of us are discussing. And we all make the same mistakes. We all learn the same things. And so you'll be able to benefit from that. Anyway, thanks for joining us. For the rest of you, for those who are official participating members of the class, We're going to take a 15-minute break, and then we're going to reconvene. And that, during the break, I'm going to email you not only the link for the second segment, but also the screenplay of Scorpion 69, so that you can follow along as we read it and discuss it. I think let me look at my notes to see if I missed anything super important. I missed a lot of things super important, but I'll be able to get to those with the class. All right. Well, it's been a hell of a first hour. And let's take a break, and I'll see you all again in 15 minutes. Thanks.